Hello, mate, and welcome to another episode of Breaking Through in Cybersecurity Marketing. I'm here calling, dialing, recording live from the beautiful town of York, England. So we're actually recording this episode in multiple time zones. So it's like across an entire day, basically. We're all recording from the future or the past. And I'm Jenna Woodford, and I'm here, of course, with my splendiferous, amazing co-host,
Maria Velasquez.
And we are so excited to have on the show today an amazing, amazing marketer. We have Cary Tiernan. He is Director of Product Marketing at Bay, which is a really interesting company. They do cybersecurity insurance. Cary, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
So, Cary, tell us, what does @Bay do, and what do you do at @Bay?
Yeah, happy to. So @Bay is a cybersecurity company and a cyber insurance provider. What that means is our company writes cyber insurance policies for small and medium businesses in the United States. We have about 40,000 policyholders on our book of business right now. We're a startup, been around since 2017. And more recently, in the past year, 2 years, 3 years, we've gone from just principally providing cyber insurance to also providing security services to our customers and security solutions for them. The idea behind the company is it's not just we want to write cyber insurance risk and take that on like a traditional insurance company does, but we actually want to try to make our customers safer. The reason why we want to do that is because it's both good for them, it's also good for us. And so overall, everybody can reduce cyber risk. There's a cool thing about insurance companies where they are the ones principally who have to take on a lot of the risk. They're the ones that are very incentivized to make sure that everybody's safe rather than just sort of the ones who sign contracts with folks. What I do at @Bay is I lead the product marketing team here. So we mostly focus on our security product on making our customers more secure overall, which reduces their risk and then also makes us as a company just a better business overall. So that's the thesis of the company, and that's what I do at @Bay.
Sounds amazing. Take us through the nuances and the differences and maybe even benefits and things that are better in this type of cybersecurity business where it's a mix of services and cyber insurance provider. I bet it's not as straightforward as having a SaaS product to market, right?
Yeah, no, it's not nearly as straightforward as that. What makes it really challenging and really interesting, and this is why I like working at a place like this where I get to work on hard problems like this, is what we're trying to get the customer to do is not necessarily buy a product from us once they're a policyholder. So say that they're a policyholder within our portfolio of business. We're not trying to get them to buy a product from us. We're trying to get them to take action to actually reduce their cyber risk. So there's in an enterprise sale, you can imagine that there is like a buying committee. And they are signing a contract, and to a certain extent, they actually are like bought in to the fact that you're buying a product from somebody. And so once they pay the money for the product, they want to get value out of it. They're already incentivized. In contrast, with @Bay, they are buying an insurance policy, which, by the way, insurance is a product that nobody hopes to be able to use. So they don't actually want to be using insurance. 2, you don't necessarily know who your insurance provider is because you're buying like 10 insurance policies at the same time. So very unlikely for you to be aware of who your insurance provider is. And then they're not necessarily consciously buying like security products from us. So we need to figure out ways to be relevant to our customers and provide value for them pretty much as soon as their policy starts. So that way we can work with them to reduce their cyber risk. So that's one of the challenges and weird wrinkles of working in this part of the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to follow up on that, I imagine as you were saying that, I immediately thought there is a very personalized, not only relationship with the customers, but very personalized strategy for going after those customers before they become customers. And I wonder if you work closely with your demand gen team or the digital marketing team, and if you've seen maybe ABM plays work really well with stuff like this, just because it has to be kind of like a one-to-one kind of strategy versus one-to-many. Every customer must have a different need and different use case, right?
Yeah. So with some of our customers, especially when we're looking at essentially upgrading them from their sort of like current tech stack to what their tech stack could be from a security perspective, an ABM play makes a lot of sense. And fortunately, we already, to a certain extent, know who they are. We have some information about them, and we also understand a little bit about the risk, so we can talk about like what makes more sense as a tailored solution. But so that's one aspect of it. But there's actually another aspect, which is it doesn't matter whether or not they want to buy something from us. What we actually care about is how do we reduce their risk. So one of the playbooks we've seen work very well, especially for our more like mass products, is actually more of a product-led growth strategy, which is not common within cybersecurity.
And that's in services too, right? I mean, I get that there's products that you're also upselling, but that's an interesting journey, right? Services to insurance provider to PLG. Let's double click on that. Tell us more.
Yeah. So just taking a step back, my background is before AppA, I was at Intuit. I worked on QuickBooks. And so I spent years talking to small businesses, and QuickBooks, their business model is essentially like a razor and blade model. You buy a cheap accounting software product, and then you add on very profitable like payroll and payment services on top of that. So it is like, in some ways, the OG of product-led growth, where you land something and then one to many try to expand to something much more profitable. Especially to a small business, you need to understand all of their problems. So I come from that background, and I understand what that motion looks like. So we're trying to take that PLG playbook to insurance, where essentially take our products, realize value from them, reduce their risk, which is good for us. Just if everybody reduces the risk by 5%, that's very, very good for us. And continue to like build a relationship with us over the course of time. So whether or not they buy something from us outside of just purely their insurance policy is great. Just taking a step back, if you think about enterprise sales is you start with a conversation, you have a sale, you sign a contract, and then you start recognizing value, and then hopefully you build that relationship over time. PLG is the opposite. You start with a value, you get them to realize the value first, you build that relationship, and hopefully over the course of time, you get to expand that relationship further. And that's how we're trying to approach a lot of the marketing that we do to our 40,000 insureds.
Can you explain, Cary, a little bit more about what value they're getting right away when they're doing that PLG approach for signing up for AppBay?
Yeah. So we have a strong thesis with AppBay when they like sign up for AppBay, in addition to the insurance, that the more actions they can take to reduce their cyber risk is just going to be good for them. So we launched, just a few months ago, basically are giving away security awareness training for free. Security awareness training and phishing training. So you log into our platform, which is called AppBay Stance. It's essentially an external attack surface monitoring platform, which is a little bit passive. If there's anything major issue, we let them know about it at first. But then they can also access security awareness training. That is just included as part of the cost of signing for the policy in the first place. In contrast, a lot of competitors who are, more on an enterprise sale are charging people for this as a module. And this is essentially offered no incremental cost for them for up to 1,000 employees. And we just want as many people to take it as we can, because business email compromise is a huge cost within cybersecurity overall. So, yeah.
I just wanted, we're doing like telephone here. That is so interesting. And it's so interesting to hear the perspective of an insurance provider providing cyber risk insurance, because while you're providing solutions, you're also caring more about reducing the risk for the companies, right? Because for those of us in more of this enterprise sale, of course, we care a lot about the risk to the businesses that we have as our customers. Of course, if we're selling EDR software, we care a lot about protecting the devices that we're supposed to be protecting. But if the company is hacked or exploited or breached in another way, it's not really on us, right? But as the insurance provider, you're like, I would like to reduce the risk because I have to pay for that, you know? So it's interesting because you have this almost two sides to profit and making money, which is selling the services, but also regardless of if you sell the services, you save money when you reduce the risk.
That's absolutely right. And it's not, I was thinking about this a little bit before this conversation, which is like, it's not as if people in enterprise sale or cybersecurity sales don't care about making their customers safer. They absolutely do. But you also, as part of your job, focus on the things that help make your company money, because that's what your job is, right? And so you're going to anchor on the things that focus on that. The beauty of working for a company that, just cares about the outcome and doesn't care about how you get to the outcome as much is that you get a much larger remit to figure out like what is going to make the most sense for your individual customer. And we focus mostly on small businesses, like between 10 and 100 million in revenue. Those businesses are typically very underserved within the cybersecurity market. They are the ones that are very frequently breached and impacted. And so there's just a very large opportunity there to reduce the risk for our customers overall.
Yeah. I feel like that's such I don't know if I'm being too mushy on a Friday, but I feel like that's such a noble part of cybersecurity, right? When you pay a little bit more attention to the small guys that have zero budget, zero security team, but need something that they can afford so they can save their business. And you said it. Sometimes it's a small family business all the way to, something bigger. We tend to, for like a lot of cybersecurity companies, we tend to go for the big guys, and we want to, have a share of that enterprise pie. And the small ones have to fend for themselves or pay that ransom or figure out some sort of out of the box solution that isn't really the best.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what excited me at my previous role at Intuit, sort of helping small businesses be successful. That's why I came over to AppA with that focus too. I pulled up a stat on this, which was small businesses are actually a large portion of the cyber risk. 98% of cyber insurance claims are to businesses under $2 billion in revenue.
Huh. Look at that.
Yeah. And then
Wow.
the cost per incident for a small business is $170,000. And that's inclusive of ransomware, business email compromise. So if you think about like your average small business, that could end somebody's business.
Yes.
$170,000 for that cost.
Exactly.
So it used to be 10 years ago, 15 years ago, enterprises, which, had the most valuable data were able to, or not able to, but were the ones that were targeted the most. But now bad actors are able to monetize the poor security of small businesses with ransomware and other sorts of things. And so they're being targeted a lot more.
Makes sense because it's a volumes game, right? I'll go after these 100 small businesses and get a much better return from my hacking versus go after this one big company who most likely has a solid security program and a team that's monitoring.
Exactly.
Exactly. And you don't even have to, like what you were saying, Cary, a lot of it is business email compromise, and you don't even have to hack. You could just send an email convincing enough to phish and to get someone to wire money to the wrong account.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
100%. I was going to ask Cary, other, product marketing tactics or advice that you have for our listeners that might be in a similar role at a similar company and are challenged with some of the things that you probably were challenged with in the past, but you've overcome them.
Other tactics. So I think one of the things, especially focusing on thinking about product-led growth just as a principle, is the onboarding experience for customers is like the most critical part of the entire customer lifecycle. So once you get a customer on board, no matter the type of product, making sure that your onboarding and introductory experience is tuned as well as it can be is the best time, because if you're only doing marketing to customers 6 months after they've signed a contract, or they have an agreement with you, they've probably forgotten you by that point in time. So getting the timing right to say okay, contract is signed, they are in business, let us introduce ourselves to them and put our best foot forward. They're going to be in the mindset to try to engage. And when we do our onboarding campaigns for our customers, we find that that first introductory email that we send to them has the highest open rate, it has the highest click-through rate, and it's also one of the most efficient ways for us to just drive engagement with customers. That's just one tactic. I'm going to come up with a couple of other ones off the top of my head in a second, but yeah.
That's okay. And you know what? You bring up a really good point. I think a lot of us probably miss this opportunity. It is after we hand off that lead and it becomes an opportunity. On the marketing side, we tend to think, okay, well, our job is done here. At the very least, when the opportunity is created, I feel like, okay, I was successful in handing over a good fit lead, and now it's an opportunity, and it's kind of in the hands of the sales team to make it happen. And, whether you do have a customer advocacy or customer marketing person on the team or not, I could say confidently that a lot of us don't really have customer marketing down to a super well-oiled, personalized, and pleasant experience. I think it's probably a regular engagement for a customer webinar, or it's a cab meeting, or meet us at an event. But does it really answer the customer's pain points and challenges, or does it really nurture that relationship? Most likely not.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, a phone call or a conversation is kind of a pain in the butt to do. We offer that to our folks, and while a small percentage of them take us up on that, a lot of them are busy. They don't necessarily have the time to do that. So a lot of the other things that I pay a lot of attention to is actually the in-product marketing experience. This is taking pages from my previous work at Intuit, in-product marketing, in-product display was by far the most efficient upgrade channel to get somebody from being a light user to a heavy user or something like that.
And how do you do that? I'm going to interject real quick. Is this an extra tool that you had to layer onto your product, or is this something that was built right in-house?
At Bay, we leverage Intercom, which has a lot of in-product discovery features to it. At Intuit, we basically built the tool from scratch. To a certain extent, especially when you get to a much larger corporate level, there is a business decision of how much do we want to rely on an outside tool, or how much do we want to be building it in-house? But there's a lot of tooling that you can do, and there's a lot of granular points in the customer journey that you can start thinking about to help them realize the value and move them along that customer journey. So just as an example, within Intercom, you can build in a trigger to the system where it says, after a customer completes task for first time, send them a message. You can make that, or if we haven't seen them in 30 days, start like a reactivation campaign. All of those things, you can get extremely smart about that. And I acknowledge like this bleeds into a bit of like UX, customer experience land, as well as like product management land. But I like being up in everybody else's business on this stuff. And I feel like everybody owns the customer experience. And so product marketing absolutely gets to as well.
I love that. And that's especially, I think, relevant for what you were saying about like cyber risk. Like, okay, you bought the policy. It's been 30 days. You haven't logged in once. Like, are you addressing and reducing your cyber risk, or are you continuing to ignore the emails we send you?
And, there's a lot of people who ignore the emails, and they will always ignore the emails, and that's okay. But like, that's just, people are busy and they have other things going on. But, being in the building your entire customer experience such that folks are able to see, or you could be there at the right time and place with the right message, and doing it at volume, so that way you can make sure that you know what's working, you can A/B test. All of that stuff is very critical. I think I'm kind of curious as to how you all think about this from more of an enterprise perspective, or like how this can sort of apply to folks who are on more of an enterprise platform, if you see anything like that.
So, Cary, you're saying from a product-led growth perspective, or
I'm kind of curious how you guys see the in-product consumption like apply to somebody who's buying, I don't know, like a super enterprise product or something like that. How have you seen that work in the past?
Yeah, I think it can work. I really think it can if it's set up correctly. I think a lot of us on the enterprise level are a little bit afraid of the PLG motion because you control less of that journey, right? And you put more of the power in the hands of the lead or the potential customer. And then also there's infrastructure that needs to be set up for that to work, right? If your product needs like 5 people just to implement it from your company in partnership with the customer's team, and it's super complex, there's no way you can do PLG there. But if it's kind of like, you're just giving access to the customer and they can hop right on, why not put a PLG motion in place and be okay with, maybe the inability or the lack of visibility when you do something like that, or maybe in the beginning, you're probably going to have less POVs and maybe less money in the pipeline, but it is a long-term game, and you will probably have that money in the pipeline, or those opportunities in the pipeline later down the road after that first 30-day trial or whatever. But personally, we actually tried to do this at NetSpy, but I don't think we had the right tools in place for it. We layered in certain marketing tools, and we kind of Frankensteined them to make them work within platform. So it was really hard, and it took a lot of our product team to like engineer and build things for it to work. And then what happens then is kind of like you lose your opportunity window for that to actually work because you took so much time to Frankenstein a solution. And that's the reason why actually secretly I asked you, how are you doing that? And then you mentioned Intercom. So the note taken for that. But yeah, I think, I guess it depends.
Maria's fishing for tools here.
This is what I do on this podcast. I come to learn what others are doing, their secret sauce, their strategies, and I go and apply it elsewhere.
I mean, to be perfectly frank with regarding Intercom, I didn't choose the tool. I literally came on board. Somebody had already implemented it but nobody was doing anything related to PLG. And so I was like, oh, hey, we're paying for this license. Why aren't we doing anything with it? And so as a startup, I just started doing stuff. and it worked. I don't know if it's the best tool in the market, or like Pendo, I think is another one that is also viable. Yeah. Uh, but one thing I'll say is related to PLG is typically when you think of PLG, you're thinking of like Asana or Slack, which is kind of like a like inherently viral thing where one person signs up and then they invite their friends and then they sign up and it creates this virtuous cycle. But a lot of with security, you probably don't want everybody to have your security dashboard, right? But you can still take some PLG ideas of like in-product discovery. How does Slack do in-product discovery for their things? How do they get you to it like use their product more, upgrade within their product? There's definitely motions that you can sort of, or inspiration you can take from that to whatever product you're helping to build a little bit.
Make it more sticky. Yeah.
Cary, are you saying that we shouldn't, for our next security product, create like a super secure like WhatsApp and then build security products into it so that like anytime people are messaging with each other, it would pop up and it would say, buy my pen testing solution. So that's not a good PLG approach.
I mean, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that. I'm more saying that if you're, selling like a SIM product or something where like you want to limit the access to it, but you also have maybe an executive who has like, that quote unquote one pane of glass dashboard, maybe you can add some additional add-on features in the left-hand nav that they could explore as an opportunity. So
makes a lot of sense.
I don't know, like whatever needs to make sense in the context of your business.
It makes a lot of sense. Gianna, is it time for our game?
I think it is.
Cary, every episode we put our guest through torture. No, I'm kidding. What we do is it's a game where we guess what you would actually be doing today if you weren't in cybersecurity marketing or product marketing or your current career, for instance. And sometimes the guesses are just wild. Sometimes they're very creepy and accurate and to the point. So Gianna and I will take a turn guessing, and then you tell us if we came close or if we're so far away and what would the accurate answer be.
Sounds
awesome. Good. Okay, I'll go this time first, Gianna, since you have a lag across the pond. So, Cary, I don't know, I'm getting teacher vibes from you, but I'm getting like, for some of us, maybe a lot of us, we always have this memory of like the coolest teacher ever, right? That we've had, the most awesome, the funniest, the most kind. That is the vibe I'm getting from you. And I don't know if it's like elementary or high school or whatever, but I get the sense that if you were in education, you would probably be the coolest teacher kids like fall in love with.
And
that's my guess, but don't say if I was right or not. Okay, Gianna, you go.
Well, since Maria guessed my guess, I'm just gonna guess a completely different guess. So, Cary, I think that you would actually be the owner of a French restaurant, but you'd be one of those very like mean owners that would yell at people, like a Gordon Ramsay, but like a French restaurant. And you'd have like 5 out of 5 stars on Yelp or whatever. I don't know what people use these days. Resi? I don't know. Google. You'd have 5 out of 5 stars and you would be so famous. You'd have like 20 Michelin stars and you would just be mean. And I'm guessing this because you're so obviously super nice. So we got to take it in opposite lands.
Yeah. All right. How bad is it, Cary?
Well, yeah, I mean, well, first of all, the restaurant one, I would have too much anxiety and I would just like die an early death from like all of the blood pressure in it. So working in food service is not my happy place at all, or hospitality. No, that would overcome it. I actually did in college consider being a teacher for a little while, and for one of my college summer jobs, I was like a camp counselor and tried to do that. Turns out I do not like it. It turns out I don't like being a camp counselor or working with kids like that. I'm happy that I checked it out, but I was like, oh no, this is not what I want to be doing. So, yeah.
Okay. So definitely two losers today. What would you be doing though if you weren't currently in cybersecurity marketing?
Probably this might be a slightly boring answer, but doing like marketing strategy stuff, product marketing, I was doing writing and copywriting. So some sort of copywriting, some sort of writing would probably be, I was working in like real estate copywriting and speech writing pre making the switch over to this stuff. So
that's really cool. So maybe journalism or something.
Maybe journalism or something like that. Although my parents were journalists and I actively tried to avoid that career. All of the downsides of that career pursuit. Yeah,
it's not easy. Well, you heard it here, folks. Both Gianna and I definitely did not guess this one right. But hey, it's been an amazing time chatting with you today, Cary. Thanks for being on the show. We hope you come back, and we hope to see you maybe later this year in December at Cyber Marketing Con.
Yeah.
It's always really nice to see our podcast guests in person and touch them and make sure they actually do exist and they're not deep fakes logging on to do a podcast episode with us. All right. Thank you. Thank you to our listeners for joining us today. Remember, a new episode drops every Wednesday. And subscribe to make sure you get that alert. And give us as many stars as possible. And tell your friends in marketing about this show. And see you all next time.
Thank you so much. It was great being here.
See ya.